Good, we good? Good evening, everyone. If I could just grab your attention. Before we get started tonight, I just wanted to share a moment of what happened up in Tumbler Ridge last week. Just a horrific incident. And I had the pleasure of actually having lunch, I think, at one of our local government with the mayor of Tumbler Ridge. And it certainly sank in very clearly a community very similar in size to us and how we all know each other and how horrific and how tragic the events were. But I just, our hearts go out to the community and the families, and I just wanted to share that before we start the meeting. It was a pretty tough Family Day weekend when something like this happens, and I just wanted to, as a community, I know that we want to send all the love and hugs that we can up to that community so that they can heal if they can, and it takes time. So I just wanted to say that before we started the meeting. So I'll get started. So welcome everybody to the regular council meeting on Tuesday, February the 17th. It's currently 7 o'clock. Before we get started, the Village of Anmore would like to open our meeting by recognizing the many Indigenous peoples of our area, including the following First Nations, with communities that are located in the region that we now know as Metro Vancouver. There'd be the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Coquitlam. Further, we'd like to honor the important place in history occupied by the many territorial keepers of these lands and waters around us since time immemorial. Call the meeting to order. Could I get someone to move the agenda as circulated? Moved. Second. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Public input. Public council welcomes your participation in the public portion of this meeting. Members to the public raised here for council's consideration should be constructively focused on agenda items only. Does anybody have any comments for tonight's agenda? If you could come up and just state your name and address, please.
My name is Trudy Schneider, 2318 Sunnyside Road. I hope everyone will vote in favor of the procedure bylaw amendment. I was so happy to see that. And I was wondering if there might be some discussion or consideration for adding letters to be read out or comments to be read out. We used to be able to do that, and it helps people who can't come to meetings or just don't feel like speaking in public. So that's it. Thank you very much, and thanks for doing that.
Thank you. Any other public comments? How is the sound? Is the sound all right? Everybody can hear me all right? Okay, good. Okay, we'll move on to the minutes. The minutes of the regular council meeting held on February 3rd, 2026. Could I get someone to move the recommendation that these minutes be adopted as circulated? Moved. Seconded. Any discussion? See none? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Is there any business arising from the minutes? Councillor Richardson.
Yeah, so for those that were here last week at the public question or comment period at the beginning, one of the residents stood up and asked a bunch of questions, but there were actually more accusations against staff. I don't think that was the right way to do it. I feel somewhat at blame because I didn't call a point of order to put it to end. So if we're going to talk about things in reports and such things, just reference the report and keep the names of the staff out of it. It makes it much cleaner. It talks about the facts, and you can get on. You know, we as a group are trying to, get past the Icona thing and, bring the temperature down. And for me, I felt uncomfortable. There was kind of this hostility that still goes on, and I don't think it's necessary. So if you could just please, I love to hear your comments, but just talk about the comments and not who did what right, wrong, who broke promises, et cetera, et cetera. And that's my thought on that.
Yeah, I was, because most of us didn't even attend that meeting. It was, I think, for the Ravenswood traffic. I was unaware of even what was discussed at that point in time. So anyway, well, thank you for your comments. So seeing nothing more, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Would anybody like to pull anything from the consent agenda? No? I'm going to pull 7A. That's it. So I'll move the consent agenda other than removing 7A. All those in favor? Second? Well, I guess it's the only thing on the consent agenda, so, sorry. Yeah, okay, so I would like to get the recommendation on the floor that Josh Joseph, village planner, be appointed as deputy approving officer pursuant to section 77 of the Land Titles Act. Could I get someone to move that? Moved? Seconded? Yep. Right, deputy approving officer, yeah. I had a few people ask me a question as, can the deputy, or can an approving officer not be a village employee? Ms. Elrick?
Yes, that is the case right now, and yes, that is
Yeah.
an appointment that is
Okay.
the discretion of council.
Yeah, there was a question that was posed to me over the last couple of weeks about that, so I just wanted to confirm that and get that on record. Now, with that, do we have a time frame as to when this transition will complete?
I'm sorry, which
For the
transition?
transition as deputy to the official approving officer? I didn't see anything in the report.
No, there is no time period identified at this time. This is, part of our succession planning. Most communities have a deputy approving officer and approving officer. We haven't had the luxury to have two individuals that are qualified for that position, and we do now. Typically, engineering and planning are the areas that work closely together, and since we have Mr. Boyd and Mr. Joseph in both of those areas, I believe it would be appropriate to have them both.
So there's no time frame on how that long that'll go on it for?
I don't have a time frame. The appointments are at the pleasure of council.
Okay. Councillor Trowbridge.
Have I been away that long? I'm very glad to hear your answer. I'm hoping there is no time frame. I think having bench strength for such an important position is extremely good. So I'm hoping we'll have, not that I don't want to see you promoted, Josh, that's not what I'm getting at, but I think having that sort of collaborative, almost apprentice type position so that the village is always covered is a luxury that's nice to see. So often we're plagued by a shortage of manpower in terms of serving our community. So I'm very much in favor of this.
I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We'll now move on to legislative reports. 9A, 38-3295 Sunnyside Road, Countryside, zoning bylaw text amendment application. Mr. Joseph.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So the purpose of this report is to present a site-specific zoning bylaw text amendment application for the property located at 38-3295 Sunnyside Road, and to seek council direction on whether to proceed with preparing a draft amendment bylaw. So the application requests an increase to the maximum permitted floor area ratio, or FAR, for the specific lot from the current of 0.6 to 0.74 in order to allow for reconstruction of a previously approved single-family dwelling. So the subject property is in a Bearland Strata lot subdivision within the Countryside Compact Housing Zone. In 2017, a building permit was issued for the single-family home that complied with the zoning regulations at the time. The regulations permitted a higher FAR of 0.7 and also included a fully excluded garage space from the floor area calculations. Later in 2017, the village adopted zoning changes that reduced the maximum permitted FAR to 0.6, and the current bylaw permits a garage exemption of only 30 square meters. As a result, the previously approved dwelling would now exceed the current zoning regulations. So under normal circumstances, the house would maintain a lawfully non-conforming status. However, due to the fire and damage of the building beyond 75% of the value above foundations, it no longer has its non-conforming status in accordance with the Local Government Act. So because of this, the owner cannot rebuild to the previously approved home without a zoning amendment. So the applicant is requesting a site-specific amendment to increase the FAR of 0.74 solely for this lot. A proposed amendment would not change the FAR for other lots in the zone. The number reflects the floor area of the previously approved dwelling when calculated under current zoning definitions. So staff are considering this limited in scope and exceptional circumstances related to a fire damage and the loss of non-conformant rights. Staff have reviewed the proposal for consistency with the official community plan. The OCP does not regulate floor area ratio, and the proposal does not change the land use or lot density. As such, staff find the application consistent with the OCP. From a servicing perspective, the fire did not damage infrastructure, and an engineering memo was received by staff that confirms the existing foundation remains structurally intact. So the lot is also serviced by existing private sewer systems regulated by Fraser Health, where adherence to the septic permit and compliance with legislation is the responsibility of the strata for Countryside. So should council proceed to approve the recommendation and accept the FAR increase, there's an option also to remove the site-specific FAR in the future after a building permit is issued. So at that point, the home would be rebuilt and would have a lawfully non-conforming status that would have to adhere to the current FAR of 0.6 for any future redevelopment. So the recommendation is for that staff recommend that council direct staff to prepare a site-specific zoning amendment bylaw permitting a maximum FAR of 0.74 for the property, and to provide the required notice prior to bringing the bylaw forward for consideration at a future meeting.
Can I get someone to move that? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Councillor Trowbridge.
Yeah, you know, over all the years that we've been trying to refine things like FARs and setbacks and all of that normal stuff, I've always been a fan of bringing clarity and sticking to it. In this particular case, I think this family's been through enough, and allowing them to rebuild what they had doesn't change anything for the village. There's no harm to the village, which is our principal obligation to make sure there isn't. I hope we can see a positive vote here and grant what you're asking for so that we can take care of these folks. It just seems right. Some things are right, and that feels right to me.
Councillor Reverend.
Yeah, I just have two questions. How old is the home? I assume it was built after that whole subdivision was changed.
Yeah, so through the chair, the building permit was issued in 2017, and I believe they got occupancy after that, around 2018, 2019.
Okay, so pretty new. Yeah. And are the setbacks changing? Have the setbacks changed in our latest building bylaw? Are they the same as they were back then?
Yeah, no, so setbacks will remain the same for this, and it'll be in compliance.
So there's no new setbacks that have been implemented in the last few years, like after that house was built?
I'll have to get back to you on that one.
Okay. I mean, it's just out of curiosity. I am in favor of it. I think exactly what Councillor Trowbridge said. You know, this was a home built in 2017 that was burned.
Yeah.
That's a hardship, and I'm totally in favor of allowing this.
Councillor Richardson.
Yeah, so I support the other councillors with allowing them to do this, but I do have a concern, which is, in some ways, if you read this, it's a work around the Local Government Act, especially if we go back to the original zoning after the building permit is issued. And that feels a bit wrong for me. And every sort of decision bylaw to me should be fair to all residents. So heaven forbid we have another fire, but if somebody else's place burns down, do they get the same consideration? And what I'm kind of hearing is, well, maybe. And maybe depends what it is. So, you know, if it's just floor area ratio, okay, but what about it's a setback from a road, or it's an accessory building that goes down, or some other thing that happens, will we give them the same consideration? Like, for example, a riparian area. Like now they were 15 meters away, now they have to be 30 meters away. You know, from the same arguments I've heard, you know, letting them rebuild what they had makes no change to the village. Fair enough. But will we say the same thing in the future? And if we won't, I have a problem with that. And I'm trying to figure out how to accomplish that. And maybe one way is to have a policy that in case of fires, Anmore will do its best to go around 532(1) in the Local Government Act. Because I think it should be for everybody, not just for one. because I don't like that. So can I make an amendment that we also prescribe in a policy to do this?
I believe there is something in the Local Government Act regarding this specific thing about what you said, like especially regarding riparian, about historical, where something is built, as long as they build it the exacting same foundation footprint.
No, my understanding, when I read it this afternoon, 532-1 specifically says, if more than 75% of the value of the house is destroyed in a fire, then you must comply to no zoning, whatever the new zoning happens to be, whether it's riparian setbacks or whatever happens to be. And it's that key 75%. Is it right? Is it wrong? I don't know, but that's what the law is. And I think, Anmore, if we do it for one, we should do it for everybody. That's my only concern here.
Mr. Joseph?
Yeah, just through the chair. So, Local Government Act basically just removes that, like you're right, the nonconformance status after 75% damage. However, zoning bylaws are the purview of council and the village. So, whether we choose to rezone after or before or whenever, it's council's discretion. So, on a case-by-case basis, this is why we're bringing forward this zoning amendment. It doesn't necessarily go around specifically Local Government Act. It just changes our zoning to make it conformant.
Okay, but in there you said something that is the thing that bothers me, on a case-per-case basis. So is it if you have newly built house and 2 kids, that's hardship enough you get to. If you're a retired couple, you don't get to. If it's a repairing everything, you don't get to. Like I don't like that it's up in the air for whoever to decide in the future. I would like to see a policy that says we consider all fires 75% to be hardship, and we will work as a village to make it go. Like, at least it would be written down that we want to do it for everybody.
Ms. Ellery?
Through the chair, I would caution a type of blanket policy that may or may not be aligned with legislation. And in the case of zoning is always a discretionary power of council. So regardless of the instance, the council of the day would have the discretion to decide this on a case-by-case basis, which is how it was brought forward today. So I do understand your concern, but I think it would be difficult to sort of have that blanket policy. We would still be required to bring forward a zoning application to council, whether your policy was to allow it or not allow it. So it would still come before council either way.
I'm going to go ahead. Councillor Trowbridge, go ahead.
Yeah, I completely align with what Councillor Richardson is saying or what his concerns are. I worry about setting a policy. I would not want to incentivize the burning of a house, which everything cuts 2 ways, and we have to be really careful. But honestly, I do appreciate and agree with the concern that we need to apply our reasoning uniformly across the board. But I also think that some discretion in situations like this is critical, and retaining that discretion. When you have a situation where the house was built under an FAR of 0.6, which I believe it was, and then that was altered, 0.7, and it was altered in 17 and the foundation is still sound, it hasn't gone away. It would feel different if they had to change the foundation. I can fully appreciate and understand and support letting the individuals build back what they had, and then reverting that zone, because it'll be an individual zone as I understand it. Is that correct, Josh?
No, so it'll be the same zone, but within the zone, there'll be a specific text amendment allowing for the specific lot to have
Have
FAR
that specific,
increase.
right. But then we could revert that FAR back to the global zone number, right? Yeah.
correct, yeah.
So it's a tough one. It's not simple, but I stand by what I said. I think this is a hardship case, and I think we'll have to decide them as they come up. And one of the considerations for me is not just the hardship of the family, but whether there's any harm being done to the aesthetic or the village or anything like that, and I don't see that. It's just what was there before is now going to be there again. My thoughts.
Yeah, Councillor Cryer.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and I get it. And I'm wondering if there may come a time where we would want to put a little more around that. In this case, it's clearly hardship, and they're not asking for anything more than what they had, so I think it's only fair to do it in this case. But there may come a time when we don't feel that way, and we might need to dig into it further. But for this one, I definitely support.
Thanks. A couple questions, Mr. Joseph. In your report, you say Lot 30 is connected to an existing sewage system that is regulated by Fraser Health Authority. Is that correct? I thought it was MOE.
There's two different authorities, so it's MOE and as well Fraser Health for certain lots within Countryside.
So
So
they're
this
not
one
all-
specifically is Fraser Health lot.
Really interesting. I did not know that. Okay. So, you know, I was down there the morning the fire with the fire department, and it was pretty tragic what happened to these families. This house was just recently built, I think. Well, I guess it was 6 years ago, and the other one they had just moved in. Now, the family reached out to me about this process and what the process and how arduous it would be, and I passed it over to you, and I think you've worked with them because it is a bit of a challenge. You know, we don't want to set precedent, but you know, the amazing thing is most time in these fires of this significance, you don't have a foundation to work from, and I'm so pleased to see that the engineering has approved the thing. So basically, exactly the same house will have to be built on that same foundation. So it's not like it's going to be any different because they're coming off of the same foundation. So I think that's marvelous. It's great for the people. But I did notice that there was another house that was down there. Are we going to be going through this process for the other house as well?
Thank you. So the other houses were actually built after the bylaw was updated.
Okay,
So we don't
perfect.
anticipate any changes.
Okay. This was just because it was built before we updated the bylaw. Okay, perfect. So could I get someone to move? Have we moved the recommendation? Have we moved? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thanks, Mr. Joseph. We'll move on to the Anmore Road Naming Amendment Bylaw number 733-2026. I'll refer to Mr. Joseph again.
Thank you, Mayor Kuhn. So the purpose of this report is to assign names to new roads within the Cartavado subdivision and to amend the Anmore road naming bylaw accordingly. So under the community charter, council may assign road names by bylaw. Earlier this month, council adopted the village's updated road naming bylaw and approved a revised road naming policy that includes a schedule of existing and suggested future road names. The developer of Cartavado subdivision had proposed names of Birchwood Drive and Birchwood Court, for the new internal roads as shown in Figure 1 in the report. While these names are not currently listed in the suggested future names inventory, staff have reviewed them against the road naming policy and determined that they meet the policy intent as they do reflect local natural environment. The road proposed to be named Birchwood Drive extends towards the western property boundary where there is a potential for future connection to the Anmore South lands. Any future road connections would be evaluated through a subsequent development proposal. If council proceeds with the recommendations, staff will bring forward a corresponding update to the road naming policy to add these names to the village's Anmore road name list at the time of bylaw adoption. So the recommendation is that council give first, second, and third reading to Anmore road naming amendment bylaw number 733, 2026. Thank you.
Could I get someone to move that? Moved and seconded. I'm going to start right off with, I'm always apprehensive of a developer naming the roads because they're community roads. And I'm also a little bit worried, and I'm going to refer to my colleague, Councilor Weber, in regards to the fact that would it confuse people from the actual Birchwood subdivision that it's on the other side of the street? So I'm open to even looking at different names as well. So I'll move over to Councilor Weber.
Yeah, good segue. I agree. First, two things I don't like: Birchwood Court, Birchwood Drive. I just think they should be two completely different names. I think it's confusing, and it's so close to Birchwind, Wind. So I can't even get it right. It's going to be confusing. There's going to be Amazon trucks driving all over the place and people lost. So I think in this particular case, I think we should go to our known road naming bylaw and maybe pick one of the names that we've already agreed to. So that would be my opinion.
Do you have anything that is jumping out at you?
No, I do not.
Any other comments? Councillor Richardson.
Yeah, I'm never going to find Paul. Is there a reason that developers come and propose these names and they don't like any of the ones that we just passed?
Through the chair, I'm not completely sure why they want these names. Something they proposed.
So this, I'm kind of seeing here that people haven't put a lot of thought into this. Is there urgency for this to be decided tonight?
So through the chair, so there is not exactly urgency. The subdivision has been deposited, and we do want to assign addressing for the new lots. So we could bring back a bylaw amendment at the next council meeting if you'd prefer, and select the name through the suggested list, either now through council or propose to the developer that they choose names that they feel they'd like to see in their subdivision.
What about even opening it up to, well, I'm of the adage that I'd like to, if it's not going to cause any hardship to anybody, I don't want to delay any processes, but to delay it to the next meeting. And in that time, for those people listening in and here tonight, we kind of just put, please submit some names that you might think, and then we'll think of some names as well, if that's possible. Yeah,
Don't we just pick off the list?
yeah, but are we ready to do that tonight, or?
I think we could do that.
Let's do it then.
I mean,
Perfect.
pick two names. I like Timberway and Timberway and Barkwood Court.
Timberway on page 37. What was the other one, sorry? We have Timberway.
Yeah, I'm changing my mind. Cottonwood Court,
Cottonwood Court, and which one?
bottom of the first column.
So Cottonwood Court and Timberway?
Yeah.
Sorry, can I say something?
Well, I think we all need to.
I like Moonlight Place and Salal Drive.
I do. It's just, okay. Councillor Richardson, do you have two that you would prefer?
I don't have two, but if we're going to do trees, let's do two trees. If we're going to do moonlight, let's have sunlight beside it or something. Like, if you're going to do a neighborhood, at least be, so that people have a rough idea. But, so Cottonwood and Fir Place or Timberway, okay. Timberway and Salal, like those are two different type things we have here. So that works for me too.
So just so we're clear, Salal Drive and Timberway.
Sure.
There we go. We were able to. I didn't think we could come to the thing. So we have come to the conclusion that Salal Drive and Timberway. Salal is right at the very top.
Okay, so just through the chair, so we will have to bring back a bylaw at a subsequent meeting just because it's a schedule amendment to the bylaw, and I don't have a replacement schedule for every list, obviously, on the policy. So if council wishes to proceed with their suggested names, we can do so and bring back a bylaw to reflect it. The other option, of course, is to let the developer choose from the list if they feel that if there's anything that stands out to them. So it's council's consideration.
Councillor Richardson?
So on that, developers have some desire to do stuff. They actually built the road. So, we had a theme idea. Maybe they have a different theme idea. I don't mind their theme idea, so you should go back and say, this is the sort of ideas that council has come back with. Please choose something along those lines and bring it back to council. Like, I don't think we should dictate it per se. So,
Yeah, through the chair, so in the subsequent bylaw amendment, we can also bring a backup amendment.
Sure.
With a developer's proposal.
Okay.
How's that sound?
Okay.
Yeah.
But the ones that council are bringing forth right now, just repeat, Salal Drive and Timber Way,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So with that, or do we have to just defer this? Or just?
Yeah, I
We've
suppose
given it
it's,
first, second, and first, we've moved and seconded for first, second, and third reading, so we'd have to vote this down then? Okay. I'll call the question. All those in favor of what was prescribed? All those opposed? That motion fails. So do we have a new motion with the suggestions?
The council provide an alternative name for the new roads. The council proposes Timber, whatever it was, and Salal Drive, prior to the approval or suggestion of the developers, and/or developers can come back with their names from the list.
Is that appropriate, Ms. Elrick?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, okay. Could I get someone to move that? Moved, seconded. Any more discussion? See none, all those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we'll now move on to 9C, Anmore Procedure Bylaw Amendment. Ms. Elrick.
Thank you. So at the last council meeting, council provided direction regarding some updates to the procedure bylaw, specifically related to removing clause 64B in its entirety. And that was related to, sorry, I'm just going to pull up the exact wording. I think everybody is familiar. That is related to where a bylaw or matter may be subject of public hearing, or where a public hearing has been waived or not permitted with respect to public input and question period. And secondly, the direction provided by council was to change the public question period to a public input period, 2 minutes per speaker, 20 minutes in total, and that the public input period at the beginning of the meeting would be related to agenda items. The public input period at the end of the meeting would be related to all village business. Additionally, staff is, along that same vein, staff is proposing one more change for council's consideration, and that is related to public input during election period. So staff is recommending a short time period, which public input periods are suspended, which is the beginning of nomination period until the election. So for this election coming up in the fall, that would be from September 1st onwards. So would impact only 2 council meetings, and this is consistent with other lower mainland municipalities that do have public input and or question periods. And I believe that there was a time that this was practiced in Anmore as well, and somehow it was lost in the bylaw updates, but it is recommended. So those are the changes that are in the bylaw amendment before council this evening, and the recommendation would be the Anmore Procedure Bylaw Amendment Bylaw 734-2026 be read a first, second, and third time as recommended in the report dated February 13th from the Manager of Corporate Services regarding Anmore Procedure Bylaw Amendment.
Thank you. Could I get someone to move that? Moved and seconded. I'll open up for discussion. Councillor Trowbridge.
Yeah, I'm obviously in support of the conversion from question period to public input as I recommended. But I also, the portion you're adding on for the approach to election makes total sense, and we did have that before, so I'm supportive of that as well.
Councillor Richardson.
Yeah, so when we discussed this last council meeting, when we talked about the second thing, which we're calling public input, I believe it was specifically stated that public input could be either questions or comments. I I think that's what we nodded our head to, and this thing is only comments. So I would like 13 changed to say may present comments and/or questions regarding any matter pertaining to village business.
Through the chair for clarification then, the direction and the resolution was to change public question period to a public input period. So just for clarification, you do not want to make that change. You want it to remain a public question period. Is that-
So my recollection, understanding, was we change it from only questions to public input. Public input included questions and/or comments on anything to do with the village.
That was my understanding.
Yeah, my understanding is what Ms. Albrecht had, because otherwise, what are we are not really changing anything.
We're allowing comments where before you could only have a question.
Now we would be allowing it both.
Yes.
Who's first? Councillor Trowbridge.
Yeah, I mean, when I proposed the public input, it was because I want to hear what people have to say. Question period often relates to technical questions that the people up here are ill-equipped to answer on the spot, which I don't think serves the residents very well. It causes us to often say, you know, that's a question for staff, email it in sometime, et cetera, and people are very unsatisfied with that. And we can't, if we don't know the answer, we can't give the answer at the moment. So I felt that public question period was not being utilized in its purest intent, which would be if you actually have a question that you want the answer to, it's easy enough to contact anyone, staff, council, anyone. You can get that answer. And if you want to be heard publicly with your opinion, that's what public input's for. So I'm not a big fan of mixing the two. I don't think that that accomplishes the intent. I definitely want to see that 20 minutes where people can say whatever the heck they want relative to, obviously, has to relate to the village, but I have never seen public question period become productive for residents. It's usually a situation where the answer gets deferred at some other point. So.
Councillor Weber.
I'm with Councillor Richardson here. My understanding was public input was public input. If you wanted to make a statement, you could make a statement. If you wanted to ask a question, you could ask a question. And it's to the discretion of the chair if the question can be answered or not. And I'm fine with that. If somebody asks a question that can't be answered, we say, I'm sorry, we don't have an answer to the question. We can look at staff. Staff may not have an answer to the question. It is questions for council. It is through the mayor for council. If we don't have an answer, we don't have an answer. I'm not afraid to say that. But at least I've given the public the opportunity to ask a question and be heard. That's what I'm trying to accomplish with this change.
Okay. Okay. So then we would, Ms. Elrick would have to amend the motion that's been moved and seconded.
Through the chair, I think that if council wants to provide additional direction subsequent to the last meeting, that instead of changing the public question period, it would be changed to public question and input period at the end of the meeting. I think the appropriate thing to do with this evening would be to defeat the motion and then provide that direction, because I'm just looking through the bylaw amendment and there's several places through the bylaw amendment that will need to be changed, and I just don't want to do that on the fly and miss something.
Okay. So, Councillor Weber.
Can we not put a definition of input to mean input and questions? I mean, input is input. It's a little ambiguous.
That's certainly something that's possible, but then through the chair, my question back would be then, are you inviting questions at the beginning of the meeting? Because that is also called public input. So I think for clarity, we would perhaps want to have them as two different things, because it sounds like you're accomplishing
Okay, fair enough.
different things.
Would we be able to get this by next meeting?
We could bring it back for next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion that is on the floor, which is just simply public input for the end of the meeting regarding any village business. So I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is defeated. Okay,
And then, through the chair, would you like to pass a subsequent motion to provide clarity that staff be directed to bring back an amendment to the Anmore procedure bylaw by changing the public question period after the information items to public input and public question period?
sure. Could I get some moved, seconded? Any discussion on that? There'll be a bit when we get back. Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Alec. Okay, we'll now move on to new business, 11A, 2026 budget pre-approved approval item. Ms. Ulrich again.
Thank you. So during the Finance Committee, where the 2026 budget was presented to Council, there was an item that was endorsed by Finance Committee and originally anticipated by staff to be brought forward in end of April, beginning of May, when we bring forward the budget. And that was a $25,000 expenditure from operating reserves to assist with responding to Freedom of Information requests for 2026. Last week, we did receive 2 fairly large Freedom of Information requests that are going to take significant time, whether it be through staff and or consultants. So staff is seeking direction from Council to pre-approve that budget rather than wait for May, because as you may know, we do have timelines associated with processing these requests, and both requests span over several years. So we do expect that there will be some time needed that is outside of our regular resource time. So the recommendation this evening would be that following 2026 budget items as recommended by Finance Committee be pre-approved, the Council approve a $25,000 expenditure from operating reserves to assist with responding to Freedom of Information requests for 2026.
Someone to move that? Moved, seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We'll now move on to the Dr. Hal Weinberg Spirit Park update, option 3. I don't see Mr.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Oh, there he is.
The ghost in the machine.
I can barely see you up there.
I'm just going to present option 3 here in relation to the report so everyone can see it there on the screen. Okay, so at the February 3rd, 2026 meeting, Council directed staff to advance a third option for the Dr. Hal Weinberg Spirit Park that incorporates specific elements identified through prior deliberations. In response, the design has been updated to include the grading and establishment of the lawn area, expanded parallel parking along Ravenswood Drive, development of a parking lot accommodating approximately 50 to 80 stalls with associated replanting and retention of the gazebo in the original location. The proposed grading and lawn improvements are intended to enhance usability, improve drainage performance, and provide flexible open space for passive recreation and community events. Expanded parallel parking along Ravenswood Drive is designed to improve on-street capacity and traffic organisation, while the proposed off-street parking will provide additional supply to the will be determined, but they will range between 50 and 80 range. Will be redefined through the detailed design to balance functionality, tree retention, and replanting opportunities and site constraints. Also consistent with Council's direction, the project will be phased with a total expenditure of up to $2 million. Phasing will prioritise core works, parking improvements, lawn and development, while allowing flexibility. Okay, so for phase 1, which is under the $2 million, would roughly consist of open lawn and associated grading, the fire pit and seating area, some forest restoration area, some primary parking, walking pathways around the lawn area, the parking lot improvements, and Ravenwood Drive improvement and associated drainage improvements. And that's the report tonight. If you'd like, I could put the recommendation on the table for council.
Yes, please.
The council received the report dated February 11th, 2026, titled Dr. Weinberg Spirit Park Update Option 3 for information, and the staff proceed with Option 3 for the detailed design for Spirit Park. That's it.
Good, good. Could I get someone to move that? Moved and seconded. Mr. Boyd, just some clarity on your report, just so we're clear where we're here. So basically, this is to literally put it out for tender to see if this project can be done within the budget that we've allocated, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Has, one of the concerns that came up at the last meeting was about a traffic study at where the new Ravenswood Drive would be on Sunnyside. Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, we typically do not do a safety report for new infrastructure. So what happens as part of the design process, as the design engineers review, they ensure that it meets the design requirements in terms of curvature in roads, sight lines, and those pieces, so that the infrastructure should be designed so it's safe and meets the requirements of TAC and other required roadway design manuals.
So there would be industry standards that they would have to adhere to for that road to go out onto an MRN road.
Correct.
Yeah. And the last question, or just for clarity, if the budget were to come below for the work that's being done there, could we add in things like, you know, one of the big things that would be great to add would be the playground for kids and that. Is that something that could be added in depending on when we start to see the numbers?
Yeah, most certainly. What would typically happen is we would tender a package based on what was on the drawings, but if council wanted to consider, you know, adding the playground because we think there might be some capacity within the budget, or wanted to see what the number is, we can include that in the tender package as an optional item. So I could bring it back to council and say, hey, I'm just going to play numbers. The phase 1 design as on the table today was going to cost 1.8 million. But if you wanted the playground, that's an additional 300,000. The council want to add another $100,000 to the package.
I think it's better that we get the numbers to see where we're at before we start anything. I just wanted to make sure that it was an option down the road. And I think as well, the higher side of the car parking is going to be required, the 80 cars. I know even with the coffee shop now, they're starting to occupy, people are starting to come from various neighboring communities driving up. So I think we need to hopefully get as close to 80. So I'll open it up to council. Anybody? Councillor Richardson.
Yeah, sorry about this because it's going to sound like a wrench in the ointment. But my dog has decided that the Village Hub gives him treats every time he goes by. So I've been spending a lot of time in Spirit Park as we head to the hub for dog treats. And I come up Ravenswood around the corner, like no sidewalk, it's kind of gross. And every time I look at these maps, I go, why have we got a road right through the middle of the park? Like either way. So I realize we're dealing with the constraints of what the situation is today. And then I keep thinking, well, if I had no constraints, what would I do? So, you know, and what kind of things would be good? So can I remove an intersection? That addresses some of the safety concerns. Can I not make a cut in the park? So then I look at the roads, what we're planning. So in the future, potentially, there's already a right-of-way for Fern Drive to go through to Sunnyside. If that road went through, we would not need to put Fern Drive to Sunnyside. That's one. If we took Ravenswood and snuck it up the west side of Spirit Park and stuck it on to Marmurray Lane, then it could feed on to Marmurray to the Sunnyside Eastray intersection. That intersection could become a four-way stop, and we remove an intersection from Sunnyside, which I think is a good thing. Barring that, which I kind of like as well, is we pop Ma Mary through to Magnolia and make that a road. Now, I realize there's a property there, but, well, yeah, but there's also land you can shuffle around and give benefits for maybe future subdivision or something. And all those options seem to me to bring a better park, and I don't know if we looked at them, and I don't want to throw a wrench into it, but those seem to be some options, and they save some on roads. Like some of the issues would be the road bylaw that says you can't have a cul-de-sac more than 800 meters or something. But I think that can be done with an emergency cut down, you know, right against the property to the southeast. So I would just, not a lot of time, but I would like some thinking, are any of those things potentially possible that would make overall a better Spirit Park? And I don't think they would cost that much more. We're spending like $2.5 million probably. So, you know, is there a better park we can make if we're going to be spending a lot of money? So that's my thought on that.
Any other questions and comments? See them? Okay. I'm going to call the question. I'm going to call the question then on what's been put there. Do you have any comments? Okay. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. I didn't know what was going on there. Okay, Mr. Boyd, you've got everything then? Is that good?
Thank you, Your
Okay,
Worship.
perfect. Okay. Okay, we'll move on to the mayor's report. I've got a few things. I don't know if you all saw today, but the provincial budget was announced. I'll tell you, this provincial government is racking up so much debt, it's absolutely incredible. But what it means for Anmore is there's going to be no grant funding for a lot of municipalities around. Like we're going to have to keep our house very strongly in order, and we have done that very, very well. I would say we're probably per capita one of the best in the province right now, but it is not good out there right now. I think I read there was $6.7 billion this next year is just going to service debt right now, which means that our debt rating will go down, which means our debt will even go up higher. So it's just atrocious, absolutely atrocious. They have seemed to, there was some initial language there about they were cooling down a little bit on the housing that they were demanding, because I think they're starting to realize that with that there's significant costs for infrastructure, but as well there's also, you know, the housing market has softened significantly. So that's regarding today's budget. Last week I had a Zoom meeting with our MP Royer. It was about Invest Vancouver, but she asked about the fire halls. And so she's planning on coming out and she wants to do a tour of both the fire halls to be able to take back to Ottawa. Hopefully, it certainly is a very appealing thing for them to send grants to in regards to, you know, health and welfare of the community. So we should be able to get we'll be working hard to get a sizable grant for both of those. She knows the urgency. She also is very familiar with both of them in that, because she spent a lot of time up here. I'm just going to bring this up because I had an email. The Spirit Bowl was located. Do you remember a while back, former councillor Ludman said there was a spirit, it's called a bowl. No, it's a, oh, you found, okay. Is it a pole or a bowl?
It's neither.
Okay.
It's sort of a plaque.
Okay.
It's 14 inches wide, about 54 inches tall.
So it was given to the village, and it was for the longest time out in Spirit Park on this concrete, and then it got taken down. I think it fell off, and they've stored it here. And Councillor Trowbridge found it.
Do you want the story?
Sure, please.
Okay, so I found it. It's in the works yard, in a safe place, in a dry storage. What happened through the chair is it kept getting weather damaged, and they kept trying to coat it with, you know, the equivalent of shellac, trying to coat the thing and protect it, but then it started to shrink and expand and crack, and basically it was never designed to live outside in the elements. So they eventually took it down. The one glitch that I'm not sure how we address is the guys at the works yard were unable to find out who carved it. But they did find out that if it was not carved by Indigenous people, then it's disrespectful to have it up. So we need to find its origins before we can do anything with it.
So I guess what I was asking is, you don't know anything about, and I'm not trying to blindside you, but we should probably, I believe former Councillor Peter Ludman knows something about it, so if we could send him an email just to see if he could maybe follow up with who was, because we have to find out who carved it, who gave it to us, and as well, and then at least report back to them whether we can, how it can be refinished or whatever, because it would be something nice to have in the hub. Go ahead.
Peter was at my place yesterday and we were talking about it.
Oh, were you? Okay.
And we were talking about other issues. And I said, by the way, I need to update you on that. He ran short on time and I never did tell him. So I'll just email him.
If you can't, yeah, that would perfect. I just didn't want it to be left.
No, I'll fill him.
Okay.
I'll fill him
Okay.
in.
So just on the poll, if you can't get an answer from him, can you get like a time frame of when it arrived at the village? Because that would narrow down the people we can contact.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Is it in really bad repair? Or? No. Oh, okay.
No, it's not in horrible repair, but it's not great. It needs to be fixed up.
Okay.
But it needs to live inside. We should not put it back outside, no matter what we do.
Two other things for Ms. Elric. Advertising on the telephone poles seems to be getting out of hand in the village. Garage Ninja, all these things, and what they're doing is just plastering them on. Is it something that, I think we do have a bylaw or something? Do we, is
Yeah,
it
it's through-
Public Works or?
I can pass that on to our bylaws. It's the first time hearing from it this evening.
Okay. And then we have a fire trustee meeting this Thursday at 7 o'clock in Belcarra at the Village Hall. Please come. It'll be interesting about the new fire halls. And then a lot of residents have been, I've met with a few residents last week, and a lot of people were asking about the Pinnacle Ridge hillside in regards to a motion that we passed back in September 10th about some sort of an open house or something so that they can get some answers and questions, because right now all that's happened is there's been 8 PC meetings and there's been committee meetings, but the public has, and unfortunately the public can't ask questions at those meetings. So I can read, it said, so that a meeting get held after second reading of the zoning amendment so that public engagement and informal process, it may include open houses, workshops, or non-binding surveys. And actually, Councillor Trolbert said it's something that he was still in favor of. There's still an opportunity for public engagement, and I want to ensure that that stays alive. And then Mr. Boyd's response was it would be staff's recommendation that there's a public consultation development on this development as we go through rezoning. So a lot of people who haven't had an opportunity to provide comments or understand, like even I get questions of where the access roads are proposed now, and I can't really answer that. So I just wanted to kind of follow up with that motion that was put forth on. That was done on September 10th, 2024. And then your comments were on June 4th, 2024.
So through the chair, I'd have to look into this, but my recollection, and you can jump in, Mr. Joseph or Mr. Boyd, was that was in 2024, and then following that, there was a subsequent report where staff indicated that due to the restrictions related to public hearing, that it would be challenging to have open houses or those types of engagement opportunities, but that folks could certainly email council or into the village.
So I'll just read the
I'd have to look back.
Yeah, I can read the resolution out, and it was passed unanimously. The resolution was that staff bring back forward a community engagement plan in relation to the rezoning of Pinnacle Ridge Hillside Development. And then from the staff report, public engagement, while council is prohibited from holding a public hearing for zoning bylaws that are consistent with the village's OCP, which this council said that it was, that they are proposing to permit a development that is wholly or partially a residential development. A public engagement plan would provide council with insights to community needs and may inform the residents of the proposed development given the scope of this proposed development. And then it says public hearings are a formal legislative process to gather community feedback and sentiments. They're usually held after second reading of a zoning amendment bylaw. While public engagement is an informal process, it may include open houses, workshops, and non-binding surveys, etc. And that was passed unanimously by this council. So I know we've given it second reading. There's been a lot of people, the public haven't been able to ask questions of what's going on. So that was what it was. I was just wondering, have we scheduled anything to that yet?
Through the chair, no, we have not, and
Okay.
I'd have to ask staff to take that away,
Okay.
as there's been several reports to council since September 2024, so we would probably want the opportunity to just
Okay.
refresh
Yeah.
where we are with recommendations and resolutions related to that.
Good. I'll pass it on to councillors' reports. Councillor Cryer.
Thank you. A couple of things. First, further to what Councillor Richardson said at the beginning of the meeting about, I was not at our last meeting, but public input question period where it was disrespectful to staff. I want to remind everyone of something that was repeated at the homeless table when I was chairing that for 10 years. There was not a meeting that went by that we didn't have to remind people to keep it about the issues and not about the people. Very simple. So I think that's a good reminder
Yep.
to address Councillor Richardson's concern. I have a CC committee on Thursday, which leads me to a notice of motion that I would like to do. A couple of weeks ago, we were approached by Massey, who some of you may know as she was part of the Dementia Cafe and some other work that we've done through the village with brain health and aging. She has a company called Safe at Home, and she is interested in doing, in honor of Brain Health Month, which is March, she would like to do an hour-and-a-half complimentary session here at the village. We looked at the calendar. It's a very busy month for her, but we tentatively looked at a day in March, Monday, March 30th.
So normally on a notice of motion, you just do an overview and then
I'm doing an overview right now. I'm telling you that we have narrowed it down to a date because she has very limited dates. And I would go on then to say that it would just be an hour and a half of working with seniors. It might be a music program, it might be art, it might be singing, a variety of different things. I would leave it to the experts to do that, but it's something that I want to bring up at the CC committee.
So with a notice of motion, it
Yep.
comes to the next council meeting
Exactly.
agenda. Right.
Yes.
Perfect.
I have it all written here.
Perfect.
But my
Beautiful.
meeting is on Thursday, so I wanted to bring it up now because I would like to speak to it if I get someone to second this. I would like to speak to the CC committee about it as well because she has future plans that she would like to do.
Okay.
So,
To get it put on the table, then we'd have to need a unanimous consent of all of council. Correct, Ms. Elbert?
just one.
No, it
So
has to
for-
be- Go ahead.
Through the chair, so the notice of motion should be moved and seconded by another member of council. And then that item would be placed on the next council agenda for debate and discussion.
Right.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so. Should I read it?
Yeah, I'm moving it.
Thank you.
I thought you did read it, you talked forever.
You thought that was long. Here it comes. Settle in, Councillor Trowbridge. Whereas the council's strategic plan calls for an engaged community that supports and increases community engagement and involvement, and that enhances a sense of community and supports a welcoming and inclusive community. I don't know why I don't have my readers on. Therefore, may it be resolved Council supports the Brain Health Awareness event tentatively scheduled for March 30 from 10 to 11:30 as follows: by waiving room rental fee, promoting the event through village social media pages and weekly email blasts, using signboards if available to advertise the event, and directing staff to assist with the logistics of the event as needed. Finally,
Moved, I'll second it, that's fine.
thank you.
So then, Ms. Elrick, you get just simply put on to the next council. Yeah?
Correct.
So we don't vote, on nothing now?
Sign it.
That's correct,
Yeah,
yes.
okay, good.
Thank you.
Good. Any other?
No,
comments?
that's all.
No? Okay, I'll move on to the Chief Administrator Officer's report.
Thank you. So just wanted to mention to everybody this evening that dog license renewals are out and due on March 1st. So if you have your dog license renewal, please bring that in for payment. And if you do not have a dog license, please get an application in for that. And the other piece of news that I would like to share is just a staffing update. So Mr. Chris Boyd has filled the position of Manager of Development Services on a temporary basis for 5 years now. So we are very happy to share that Mr. Josh Joseph will be taking over the Manager of Development Services role here with the village, along with his new appointment as Deputy Approving Officer. We're not letting Chris go too far. He will still be providing policy and other advice related to some planning issues, and of course, still providing the village with engineering services. So thank you, Chris, for your temporary 5-year gig, and we're very happy to have Josh moving into that position. That's all for me.
Mr. Boyd, can I just ask, how long have you been with the village?
Great question. I think I'm coming up onto my 11th year now. I originally came in to help with some engineering for 6 weeks, and now it's 11 years later. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Well, I'm gonna talk about your what you've done here for a little bit. So I've been on council for 18 years, and during the first 6 years, it was literally the Wild West up here. We had a company that we contracted out, Stantec, and things were breaking in that. And when Chris came on, I can tell you, he basically really put his heart and soul into this place. And what happened is that because council supported what he did, he felt very much that we were all one, and bringing we went around the village and looked at all our infrastructure to bring it up to speed. We did a stormwater management plan that Chris oversaw. Every road, so each year, depending on the budget, we would redo a road. We did Strong Road, we did Thompson Road, we did Sugar Mountain Way, we did Elementary, which was a terrible, kids, you couldn't even push a buggy down there, kids with families. And Chris, you have been amazing at the engineering aspect of this village and where we are today, and it's a lot of it is a tribute to you, and I want to say personally just thank you, because I know you're starting off in a new area and a new form, but I'll tell you, your commitment and your passion here is unmatched from where we were. So just a big thank you from us all. So.
Thank you for the kind words.
Okay, is that done? Okay, good. We'll move on to, there's no information. Public question period. 2-minute time limit applies to speakers. If you could just list your name and address. And nothing about who's going to win the Canada hockey. Okay.
Sorry?
Nothing about the Canada Olympic team.
Okay, so it's Leslie Hannigan, 1065 Thompson Road. So I just have a question regarding the hillside and the OCP. Can you hear me? Is that the right thing? Yeah? Okay. So, along with a lot of other people, we had a lot of difficulty understanding how the hillside development fit into our OCP. So I reached out to Doug, who had to explain it to me probably at least 3 times before it finally made sense, because I found it really confusing. So now I understand how it's interpreted, and I understand not necessarily agree with the average density concept, but I get it. And I understand the value of like more parkland with CD zoning and the CACs that come with it. So I'm not at all against development up there. I like the idea of a diversity of housing, even though I strongly disagree with the floor area ratios up there and the lot coverage. I think it doesn't really look like a semi-rural development to me. It looks a lot more urban. But despite my own personal views, I'm just kind of interested a little bit in one of the processes and whether it's been followed correctly. And so my question is regarding the report that was presented to Council on May 31st, where it was recommended that no OCP amendment was required. And so on page 6 of that report, well, first of all, our OCP objective is to maintain a semi-rural environment in residential areas. So on page 6 of the report, it says that our OCP supports infill development that maintains the existing semi-rural nature of Anmore. And it references RLU 16, which states that. It then says, it kind of makes a leap, I think, but it says the OCP can therefore be interpreted to imply that the increased density, now assuming hillside, may therefore enhance and not take away from the look and feel of the neighborhood. But when I look at RLU 16, I wrote this down because I understand it's complicated. When I look back at RLU 16 and you read the whole policy, like you have to read the whole thing to understand the concept, I think. Like it says that infill development in this regard is the creation of new parcels within the existing developed area of the village and are serviced by existing infrastructure. Then it says the intent of infill development is that it will enhance and not take away from the look and feel of the neighborhood. Yep.
We're just going over time, if you can just wrap it up, because this is a question that's so
Yeah,
technical. I think if you could submit it to Josh, then we could get an answer. I can't answer.
Well, if I sit down and nobody else comes, can I come back and finish it then?
You can finish it now.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah.
It's not
yeah.
that long. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
okay.
okay. But we're not going to be able to answer this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the policy that is referenced about, the policy that is referenced in the report that is about infill within an existing development with existing services. And so I think it's been taken a little bit out of context when it's incorporated into the report, because that isn't what's happening.
Yeah. So if I
Okay.
could just suggest, Leslie, if you could send an email to all of council and CC Josh the planner, and then we'll get a response back to you on your question, if you could.
Sorry, I know it's kind of complicated, and it's probably just the way I'm reading it, but I
You
don't
were-
understand how that made,
My
how it
phone
worked.
has been ringing off the hook over the last 2 weeks. You're not alone. It
Okay.
is complicated, so.
Like, I have copies of this. Does anybody want it so they can read it? Yeah? Okay, thanks.
Okay, yeah, okay. An email would be good, then we all understand what the answer, yeah.
The question was just whether everybody that voted for this recommendation to not have to do an amendment was aware that this reference was to an area that was serviced.
Yeah.
So, and then the map is the thing, so there's two issues.
Good. Thank you. Thanks.
Hi, my name's Ben, 1722 East Road. Similar nature to a fellow resident here as well about the Pinnacle development. And so just want to present to Council and Mayor here that sort of along with our fellow residents, we want to request a pause on the Pinnacle Ridge Hillside development for a number of reasons, which I'll get to briefly and hopefully on time here. So there's been a number of concerns that we've, as a village and residents have submitted previously and maybe have not quite got answers for or been fully addressed through emails or comments such as this, and as well as to discuss additional comments with councillors regarding some of the changes from the original submission to what we see as the most current iteration of the proposed development that we see today. Topics, such as the amendment in the OCP, which was just referenced by my fellow resident here, some of the land use changes, some of the deviations from current designs, infill density, road access, questions, concerns from the fire department, Port Moody, others that were submitted as part of comments and feedback by others. And so while, again, this is not a development on this significant scale as Icona in Anmore South, this development, again, I would agree, is a deviation from the rural and semi-rural sort of how the village of Anmore has been developed to date. And so we want to discuss this before any other decisions kind of get made or processed, or before any other approval. We'd like to have an open house or one more discussion forum where we could discuss and present our concerns, questions, comments in full and in person. We can submit emails as well, but to do all that. And so instead of approving this pending this study or this study that Port Moody has to do, obviously it's pending on available fire flow and all of that, we would recommend that it be paused before anything gets approved or moves forward.
I'm going to
two last things and I'll finish. Is that okay? Yeah.
Okay. If you could just put it towards a question,
Yeah.
I'm going to suggest the same thing.
Yeah.
If you could put it towards an email to mayor and council.
Yeah, exactly. We'll do that. In the meantime, between where this email gets sent, it's our understanding that this could be approved at any time, and so we would appreciate that to not be approved before an email can be sent with all of our questions sort of summarized together as a joint for you, the council, to review some of the comments and questions that we as residents, either someone along East Road and in the general vicinity, as well as the village itself and greater area, can present. And then the last two things, again, the septic being one, and then obviously what you touched on a little bit earlier was the new budget for the province and the impact to what a development like this would cause on long-term maintenance cost, fees, upkeep, and infrastructure, sort of life cycle cost to what would be put on the village. I didn't think that study, or I didn't see that study has been completed. I'm being refreshed on all of these items, but I don't think that something like that has been completed.
Yeah, I think the
in detail.
Financial one is being worked on as we speak.
Right.
Yeah.
So, again, thank you for your time, and we look forward to reaching out and connecting with you, whether over coffee or through email, and connecting more on this. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Nancy Maloney, 1724 East Road. I have a couple of preambles, but could the lectern possibly be returned, which was very useful in the past for people who had documents that they were reading? At some point it disappeared. We did have sort of like a little lectern here that your documents could be set on, and then it just mysteriously disappeared. So that would be the podium. Yeah, I'm calling it a lectern. It should be called a podium. Thank you, Lisa. Okay, and also my other preamble is many thanks to Essen, who I think is likely the staff member who completed the accessibility report, which I have reviewed, and I'm very, very impressed by the work that was done on that document. I know Essen's not here tonight, but she certainly did an incredibly excellent job. And related to, Polly mentioned inclusivity and the accessibility report. Could considerations related to the hub and park plan here, could considerations be given to expanding the number of accessible parking spaces, both in the present and in the future? And as an explanation, I'm a caregiver of my partner Bruce, who is extremely disabled, now having to use a wheelchair like all the time. And we are never able to attend community events because at present there's only the 2 accessible parking spaces, and there's always far more than 2 people. Those spaces are full, and it's very unsafe for me unless I can find some person to help me. So I have to stop, in the alleyway of the upper parking. I have to get the wheelchair out, which is very difficult. I have to get Bruce out of the car, which is difficult. I have to get Bruce into the wheelchair, and then I have to try to find someone who could stay with Bruce while I go find a place to park the car elsewhere.
Nancy, I really appreciate you bringing this up. How many I don't know, how many handicap spots are up top? There's
Two.
two? Okay.
Two.
Okay.
Yeah, two.
I'm just looking at the new
They're
plan.
now called accessibility, not handicapped.
Okay, I'm just looking at the plan and there's two here, but I think it's something that we certainly need to note.
There's 2 additional spots in the new parking lot, but that gives a grand total of only 4 spots. Like Anmore, like the province, like the country, like all other municipalities, has a somewhat aging population with greater need, for accessible parking. Thank you for asking that question. Like literally, we have 2 spaces for the size of our community. I think that may meet some legislative, very, very minimal requirement, but it's far too minimal for what the need is and makes our community events unaccessible for persons with disabilities is the problem there. And I wanted to, one more question and comment. So also, I don't know whose idea it was, but the paving at the super boxes is certainly a great improvement. I don't know if all the super box areas have gotten paving, but certainly ours on Strong Road has. But as one additional benefit for those areas, back in the day, obviously some years ago, and they were not bear safe. I know some of the areas do have now bear safe trash containers, like the one here near the hub does have a bear safe container. But most of those trash containers, which were not bear safe, so it's probably made good sense that they were removed, but never replaced. And the problem is, and I've talked to other people in other locations, about their super box areas. I'm forever picking up trash, forever. And I don't know how it's a mystery to me why people think that's an appropriate thing to do, to just, both their junk mail and candy wrappers and other litter just get strewn around the super boxes.
Yeah.
So could we have the bear safe trash containers incorporated in a budget to be gradually located at the super boxes to
Or just even throughout the village?
throughout the village,
Yeah.
so that
Okay.
and I know Spirit Park at UBC, where I used to walk our dogs, they actually have separate containers for dog waste as opposed to trash waste. I don't know why that's a good thing, but that is done there. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you.
Lisa Johnston, 180. Hemlock, is it Council Crier or Creer? I want to make sure I pronounce it properly. Creer, thank you. That's
Creer?
what I know. I wanted to make sure it's right.
Thanks for asking.
You're welcome.
My father, rest in peace, would be very happy that you
Creer.
asked.
Your brain health, is this something that we can open up? So quite often I attend with Ken Kuhn. I am a member of the Tri-Cities Seniors Association, so I attend some of the meetings. I do some of their workshops. Can we share that email and open it up to the Tri-Cities seniors, since we have such a large facility to attend?
I
Do you
will.
know?
I don't know the answer, but I'll be reaching out to Massey after, and I know Ken, and I've been sitting at that
I
table
just
and
think
all
it's nice
that.
to
So
open.
yeah, and we're also working on something to do together with Port Moody. So sharing resources, and there's some grants. So yeah, there'll be a lot more
I would
opportunities.
be willing to help if you need anything.
Okay, thanks.
My name's Paul Ray from 1700 East Road. I have got concerns about the septic strategy that's outlined in the environmental policy document. It was conducted by Landmark Engineering. Now, they say...
This is referring to the hillside.
Beg your pardon?
It
Yeah, this
refer-
is pertinent to Hillside.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just-
They say their preliminary assessment confirms the feasibility of on-site septic services and that each lot has sufficient capacity to accommodate a septic system. Now, the plan that came out shows 23 septic fields above us between 1660 and 1700 East Road. Each of those are slated to have 4 dwellings feeding them, and we know putting more than one dwelling into a septic field gives no accountability at all. So if we do the math on that, the average North American home uses about 400 gallons of water a day. If we multiply that by 76 units and 4 homes, that comes to 80. 80 times 400 gallons, 32,000 gallons a day. 32,000 gallons happens to be 121 cubic metres of water per day. Now, they say in their report that there's a ditch that runs down beside our home. They say in that it is designated dry and the overflow is minimal. I would invite you all to come up to our place tomorrow, any day, between October and April, and you will see that ground is absolutely saturated. We've actually got 3 streams that come down through our property. And for anyone to expect that it's going to absorb that amount of water is dreaming. Okay?
Paul, can I ask that you send an email as well to all the council members?
Love to.
With contact so that they could follow up. I was there. I saw what you yeah. So,
Sorry,
but I think it would be important for everyone to.
Shall be done. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Really short. Jody Cook, 1660 East Road. To what Paul said, some of the neighbors were up at Paul and Jackie's, which all of our neighboring properties are going to be backing right onto the proposed Pinnacle Ridge development. I saw the water coming down. I know there's pooling down below. The people that were in Paul and Jackie's home previously, years ago, clear cut up behind, which is now the Pinnacle Ridge proposed property, which of course the water cascaded down into our property. Now, I asked the question to Mayor and Council about 6 months ago, and I was told that you couldn't answer it at that time. My question, I will ask it again, is that years ago, I know that the first Pinnacle Ridge had a washout, and I know Mayor McEwen said it was due to a
it was due to
yeah, they went bankrupt.
bankruptcy.
They went bankrupt.
Yeah.
But I understand that it did wash out some properties as far down as Thompson. So my question is, now, proposing putting all of these septic fields up top and all this water is going to run downhill. My question was 6 months ago, if they have a washout due to septic water runoff, which we already have now, and there's not even any clear cutting going on, who is going to be responsible for the damage to all the neighboring properties? Can that now be answered?
I put it on to Ms.
No.
Elric, or?
And why is that? Because that was 6 months ago.
I don't know, Jody, who would
Okay,
be,
so Karen,
I would suggest maybe if you could send an email.
but why can it not be answered? I mean, does nobody know?
I personally don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and as Ben mentioned, I've read the report from Port Moody, Mawson Creek, Jay Sharpfire, Chief from Sassamat. There are a lot of concerns going on here. I would ask Council and Mayor to just slow this down. It seems to be racing towards the third reading, and then we can't go backwards. There are so many concerns. There's access, there's fire, there's water flow, there's everything. So this is what I'm just asking tonight. I know there's a lot of residents that I've spoke to, I've seen letters, and that's what I would ask, that we deserve better and that we would deserve a little bit of time before this gets passed.
And if I could ask, please send an email to Mayor and Council with that question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further, I'll move adjournment. Someone to move it, move second. All those in favor, carried unanimously. Thank you everyone for coming out. I'm hoping the sound was better. Good.